Good morning out there in streaming land. I am Manila Chan. That over there is Ted Rall. You are tuned in to the Ted and Manila Information Show, or TMI for short, where we actually bring you too much information. Anything from news, politics, lifestyle, culture, gross stuff, not so gross stuff, cute stuff. Sometimes we do cute stuff. We did the cute panda bears with the, DC snowstorm. It was really cute. We could use more cute in the world, Ted.
Archie is cute.
Archie?
Yeah.
Oh, Archie.
Archie.
A comic?
Archie comics. Archie comics are cute.
I don't know if that's cute. I don't know if that qualifies as cute. Not to me. Panda bear, baby pandas rolling in the snow. Nothing cuter.
That's cute.
That's very cute. You like undeniably cute. And we talk about everything. Anything and everything goes here. We believe you can never have too much information. So, cute counts. So you're looking for that straight-laced button down.
By the way, today's show is a classic TMI show. It's a topic where people don't know that they need to know about it, but they do need to know about it.
Yes. Because I think it's a gateway, the chat topic on the back half of the program. It's a gateway to like World War III.
Yeah.
So we'll tell you about it. We'll explain a little bit later. So a word of warning, if you want that button down straight lace show, this is not it.
Mm-hmm.
We do allow cursing here.
Mm-hmm.
So you might want to turn the volume down. All the stuff that you want to hear about, the hot topics, and then the stuff like Ted said that you didn't know you need to know, and we'll explain in plain language why it's important that you know this. We are live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. So please be sure to like and follow this show, especially those of you on YouTube. As much as I hate YouTube, I don't hate you, but I hate YouTube, the company. They control the streaming universe. So we need your help to grow this program by hitting the like and subscribe button. And of course, shout out to our regulars over in the Rumble room, always supporting us there. Appreciate all of our monthly subscribers there. Thank you so much for helping us try to, make ends meet there. Greatly appreciated. Hopefully this program continues to grow and we can keep doing this for you. Today, as Ted alluded to, we are going to be talking about this little country that many Americans you may have heard about because they're really really good with gymnastics. We only talk about them every 4 years and not their elections. We talk about their gymnasts at the Olympics, right, Ted? Like this is.
Do we still do that? I mean, I know, I'm old.
Gymnastics?
I remember Nadia Comaneci. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Are they still good that way?
Yes. That's their thing. Like, I think that's like their main export. I'm pretty sure. I think they sell those young women. Yeah, I think they sell the girls.
Oh my God, on the open market.
I was like, do you need...
I mean, given the news out of the world of editorial cartooning today, which we're not talking about, I guess anything's possible. But yeah.
It's possible. I'm just kidding. I'm just talking trash on the Romanians. Don't take this seriously.
Yeah, we don't think that they're really a bunch of human traffickers.
I mean, they could be. I don't know. It's possible. I mean, there's human trafficking all over the place. I'm not suggesting that this is like a legit thing that we know, but it seems like every Olympic team somehow manages to have like one Romanian star athlete, like gymnastics. Like I don't know how, but it's like Brazil, and they name all these Brazilian names, and then you hear like the one Romanian Georgescu ending in Chescu name, and you're like, well, I mean, the Brazilians have, it's like America there. It's like a mishmash of ethnicities. So you're
they might have Romanians living there. I mean, who knows?
Okay, sure. But my theory is,
or they've been purchased, they've been sold. It's like
for the Olympic purposes only.
Maybe we've just blundered into a major story here, and that we're going to be breaking about the giant scandal of Romanian gymnasts for sale.
I'm just saying.
On the dark web.
Happens to coincide. People don't also realize this. Did you know that January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month?
Oh, I thought you were going to say it's Human Trafficking Month, I was like, the month's already half over and they haven't trafficked anyone.
I'm so behind on my
on my human trafficking. My human trafficking game is terrible.
Totally. I didn't even mean to bring this up, but since I'm joking about it, it just dawned on me that I was like, wait a minute. January is
so the rest of the year, like after February 1st,
we forget about them.
We don't have to give a shit about human trafficking.
That's right. We just forget about them.
We move on.
And and they have an official color. I don't know if you know this. The movement has an official color.
Oh, no.
It's kind of like a blue zirconia color, like a blue zircon. Is that what it's called? I don't know. That light ice blue.
Like a neon, like sort of icy blue.
Like a soft icy blue, like that's the color, like a light ice blue color.
Like the ideal color of the eyes of a victim of human trafficking.
Oh.
Maybe.
From a nice European country. Just
like Romania, let's say. Yeah.
Very sad. Yeah. This everything is interconnected and you didn't know that. Around. But now you know, because Ted and I just accidentally joked and stumbled into a thing.
Yeah. We could like blow this up and just make it a thing. Like,
Ted, isn't this how all great journalists in the new millennium?
That's true.
This is how it all starts.
Yeah, just bullshitting.
Oh my God. Look, if guys, horrible things happen around the world. If you can't find a little bit of levity, especially to start your mornings. I mean, it's 10 a.m. here.
And the grosser it is, the more levity you need.
Right.
Like
you
genocide.
Need to,
just like
you really do
jokes about that, like
you just have to find some levity, or else you're just going to be depressed and cry and turn into this nihilist. And like, I get it. Like, I'm wearing a lot of black today. I'm summoning the inner nihilism. But like, otherwise,
that just makes you a New Yorker.
That's true. Or LA, what's left of it. Mm-hmm. Totally part of the news.
LA's official color is just going to be that gray of like
ash gray.
Of everything. Yeah. LA and Gaza, they look exactly the same now.
Yeah, that's
Gaza City should become sister cities with Los Angeles.
Oh my God. Oh my God. All right. With
it's
that,
like, hey, we hear you have ash. Us too.
Ash gray.
We hear you're burning down. Us too.
Hey, us too. You got a lot of homicides. We do too.
Most of our people are living outside. Ours too.
You have tent cities. We have tent cities.
You have bodies buried under the rubble. We have bodies buried under the rubble.
Twin cities. I had not thought about that
because our houses are gone.
I had not thought about that. It is twin cities, tent cities. You got a lot of homeless. You got a lot of no clean water. We'll talk about that. The same thing.
Right. Totally.
Oh my God. Twin cities. All right. Let's head
into news world.
Into the actual news.
Negotiators from Israel and Hamas reached, of course, a final agreement for a ceasefire and hostage release deal after 11th hour negotiations in Qatar. That, according to Netanyahu's office earlier today. The War Cabinet, also known as the Security Cabinet, has now, as of this time, signed off officially. All that's remaining is the Cabinet. They're supposed to meet later today, local time there in Tel Aviv, so we'll see what happens there. Probably, I think that's probably going to happen. A senior Hamas official, speaking on the condition of anonymity, says that the parties reached the final agreement earlier today, local time, for the first phase, which will last at least 42 days. Those even 42 days that we all know about. Israel's cabinet and government have to, of course, approve that agreement. So now that the War Cabinet has signed off, it's on for the government. The Security Cabinet has met. The government, we're not quite sure what time they're going to meet, but it looks like it's going to be, just in a few hours now. Far-right members of Netanyahu's coalition said that they would resign over the deal and bring down the government. Oh, no, please don't go. We love you. You guys are so good. No, really, don't go. No, go. Just go.
Their whole mantra is, wait a minute. You want to stop killing?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm out of here. Yeah. F you. I'm out of here. That's not my thing.
Peace.
My thing is bombing women and children. If you can't get with that, I am fucking out of here.
Yes, and like what kind of maniac are you if you're opposed to genocide? I mean, look, when you wake up in bed on Friday morning in Israel and you find yourselves to the right of Bibi Netanyahu, you gotta call your therapist. Okay, there's something wrong with you. Anyway,
Man,
Israeli airstrikes have now continued in Gaza because just you got to get in the killing before the agreement kicks in.
The deal's not official yet, bro.
It's the last chance. This is their part. The IDF is partying like bros the night before the wedding. They're out they're raging. They're like, we got to get as much killing in as possible before we take our vows. So that's what's going on here.
God. It's only 42 days though, Ted. I mean, they can. Come on, is it really anything to be? If you're to the right of Bibi, is it? Can you just refrain your urges for 42 days? Maybe it's like Lent.
Try
a little longer than Lent.
Try some serial killing, maybe on the side, on the DL, while you're waiting for the regular official killing, government killing to get back on
mass
play.
Killing.
Yeah. Well, but serial killing is disapproved of because that's freelance, and that's not allowed. State killing.
Oh, you need government. Yeah, that's true.
Right. Otherwise,
government.
Then you get a medal. Then you get medals, and maybe your name's on a monument and all that. You get a pension. Serial killers get no pension, and they hardly kill anyone really compared to the government. I mean,
they're wusses.
How many people did Charles Manson kill? I don't know, like 30 or so, or 15 or something.
That much?
I don't even think it was that much, right? 12?
No, I don't think so. I think it was like a dozen-ish.
That's why he couldn't get a job working for the military, because he didn't kill enough people.
I don't think it was all that much.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, the first 6 weeks. Apparently, according to the Civil Defense Department there in Gaza, at least 101 people have been killed in this latest round of fighting, including more than 20 kids. IDF. The first 6 weeks of the deal are expected to involve the release of 33 hostages, including Americans Keith Siegel and Szamuely Chen. That, according to Biden's White House, speaking on condition of anonymity. I don't know what they're so worried about. The Biden White House will be no more as of Monday, but whatever. French President Emmanuel Macron, in a message posted earlier today on X, said that 2 French citizens, Ofer Calderon and Ohad Yahalomi, are also among the 33 hostages that will be released. No word on whether they're alive or dead. You know how we were talking about that yesterday.
We were.
Some of the dead hostages will be released. I'm like,
I don't think that
really
counts.
No, I mean, doesn't count. I think. Yeah, whatever. By the way, that must have been really stinky over there in Gaza with all the bodies that they've been keeping from the hostages for like a year or whatever.
With no refrigeration?
Yeah. I mean,
well, maybe they have a lot of salt from the Dead Sea.
Maybe, or maybe they have like those big Tupperwares, and like they just keep those things sealed really tight.
There were jokes in the 90s about Michael Jackson sleeping in one of those vacuum sealed Tupperwares, a giant Tupperware made just for Michael Jackson.
What I don't understand the joke.
To preserve his looks, to keep him fresh. Because this was the 90s. We didn't have the technology to have these like I think Joe Rogan has like one of these hyperbaric sleep. It's not truly a sleep chamber, but it's like a chamber, like a sarcophagus
Which leads me to a question. Does he have a partner?
Rogan?
Yeah.
He's like happily married, like 30 some odd years.
So he tells his wife, kids. Like, hey, honey, I'm off to the Sark. I'll see you later.
I don't know.
I'm Sarking it today. I'm in the box.
I don't know. He leaves his wife out of the press a lot, and she never surfaces, and the kids. So that's good. They're private citizens apart from having. I bet Rogan's not an uncommon.
So do you think when he wakes up in the morning, he sort of crosses his arms like this, and he wakes up, and he goes, and then he says, "Nosferatu has arisen from the grave."
He has a routine that he has shown on Twitter or I don't know, on one of his channels. He does every day. I mean, the dude is fit. The dude's almost 60 and just like you can bounce quarters off any part of his body.
He can dream of catching up to this shit.
But apparently Rogan does this Yeah, he has like a hyperbaric chamber. Remember how much money he makes from Spotify, so he can buy anything he wants, right? Like,
right,
and
but
so
okay, but I wouldn't buy a hyperbaric chamber.
Well, so he has that, and he has.
I guess it would be good if I were diving, and then oh my god, I have the bends, I have to hop in there.
He has a water, like a thing that you submerge in absolute silence, where only your face shows like above the water, and then he does a morning dip from like very hot sauna into an ice bath.
That's the Russian way, and that is smart.
Yeah.
And I would absolutely do that. Yeah.
And he's
if
like
I had
obsessed.
That ability.
Yeah, if you have that kind of, if you have Joe Rogan money,
it's not that hard. I mean, you can go to. I mean, you can do that right here in New York City.
You could do it in the cheap. Yeah, you could do it on the cheap, like on your own. Like,
man, $25. It's great.
No, but this is daily. That adds up for the regular person. But for Rogan, he has it all on his like private ranch, obviously, and he has like,
Cali boy, or what is he?
Yeah, he's from like Boston, the Boston area originally, but you remember he cut his teeth.
Where does he live now?
Austin.
Oh God, on purpose? Voluntarily?
He left California during COVID.
Why would anyone live in Texas on purpose? I mean,
Austin's
I could see you're making a bad turn. You're on your way to New Orleans.
No, Austin, he left because of the draconian lockdowns that Governor Gavin Newsom imposed, and he was like, well, this is it. That's the last straw. Fuck it, I'm out of here. Like, and because he used to be a touring comedian, so he knows Austin. So he decided, you know what, I like Austin. Yeah. Everything is moving there. Tesla was moving there. All this stuff was happening during COVID. So he's like, Austin's the hot new city. Let's move to Austin.
I used to go to Austin every year for South by Southwest. Every year.
Really?
And like,
and then it became commercial.
It was always commercial. I mean, it was just like full of tech bros and douchebags. But I mean, the thing is, I never understood the big appeal of Austin, because it's like, first of all, the food is not that great. Sorry, Tex-Mex food there blows. Really? Much rather eat in El Paso or in Arizona. The food's a lot better.
Arizona's good.
And like I was like, well, the food's supposed to be good. It's meh. The architecture is meh.
Oh yeah, the architecture for sure.
I was like,
not into like
South. It's not a pretty.
It's not like that anymore.
It's not like Corpus Christi, which is.
It's fake LA now.
San Antonio. San Antonio is a nice looking town.
It's fake LA now, and I have a feeling, Ted, there are going to be even more Angelenos flocking to Austin.
Well,
for some reason,
I would be going. I think they all got to go to Montana.
Producer Robbie is going to be really pissed that you said that.
Well, it is
but no, really, a lot of Angelenos already moved to Texas. Mm-hmm. So, and Austin, there are a lot of them. The concentration of them are in Austin.
I mean, there's really no accounting for taste. Fuck Texas. I mean.
But yeah, that's what happened with Rogan, and why I don't know how we deviated so far from the main topic, but that's what happened. And rich people are moving to Austin, Ted. I don't know if you know, but it's growing. Just saying.
Well, okay, well they can have it. Okay, anyway, the LA Department of Water and Power, speaking of shitty California, and parts of LA County have now issued do not drink and do not boil notices, both to residents in the Palisades. Altadena and neighboring communities as well. Wildfires that encroach into cities risk introducing dangerous chemicals, otherwise known as volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, into the municipal water supply. Experts say it's going to take weeks for the utilities to determine the extent of the contamination and months before they're able to fix it. Until then, don't drink, don't bathe, don't use tap water in these areas, because it could have untold health consequences. So don't bathe. So what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to just roll smelly style?
You're supposed to do the thing like all the hipsters do anyway. Have that you already look like that in LA, let's be honest. You already look like...
I think that's more Northern California, but all right.
No, it's a thing in SoCal now. Even when I lived in downtown LA, like let's say circa 2010, there was this running joke, my girlfriends and I, because we were single back then, this running joke we had was we would look at a guy and see if he was cute, and then we'd play this game called Hipster or Homeless.
That's pretty fun. That is funny. That is very funny. All right, well,
I'd have drinks and play hipster or homeless.
So I guess that would be a good reason to move to Texas. I mean, at least the water's running.
No, that's not true either in Texas. Remember, water and electricity off the grid, off the federal grid.
That's true, right?
So yeah, so I don't know. But Californians, like, here you go.
Away from New York, we have a drought. We can't. We
do
you? We need all the water for me and for Clovis. Anyway, all right. Well, in other natural disasters like floods.
Wait a minute. Did you go over the chemicals?
I did. I'm getting there. I'm working on it. We haven't gone to that part yet.
Sorry, I jumped ahead.
Yeah, you jumped ahead. Here, chill. In other natural disasters like floods or earthquakes, city officials might recommend boiling water before using it. Breaking of pipes or inundation in those situations could introduce bacteria or viruses, which of course could contaminate the water. Boil notices are for killing that bacteria. But, okay, I'm going to speak very slowly, Californians. VOCs are chemicals. They are not bacteria. So, as Andrew Welton, professor of civil engineering and ecological engineering at Purdue, puts it, chemicals can't be killed. Only in America. You have to physically remove them from the water. When there is a do not boil or do not drink warning, the utility worries that VOCs are probably present in the drinking water. In their notices to the communities, the water utilities are saying that boiling, freezing, filtering, adding chlorine or other disinfectants, or letting water stand still will not make the water safe. Melted and heated plastics and fumes that get into the water pipes can bring in dozens of VOCs into your plumbing. Benzene, which is a dangerous carcinogen regulated by the EPA, is a common chemical found after contamination, and it's hardly the only VOC that might be in the water there in Southern California. Not to be missed out is toluene, xylene, vinyl chloride, dichloroethylene, and many, many other compounds produced from burning consumer products, electronics, building materials, furniture, all sorts of crap that ought to be tested and removed to safe levels before water is safe for drinking again. And it's not just about leaking into the pipes, although that is a problem. It's also because there's big reservoirs, right? And so the
they're empty.
The smoke is full of, right, good point. But the smoke is full of garbage. And then the smoke settles on the surface of the water, gets into the water. So it's not sealed off, right? So, I mean, I wouldn't touch that fucking water, and nobody should, really.
Well, all this shit seeps into the ground, right?
Although I would still bathe. Just saying.
In the benzene water?
Yeah, I'd bathe. Yeah, because I hate being dirty. You know what I would do?
No, go to the fucking Pacific Ocean. There's a whole ocean there. Just go take a dip.
I'd get the benzene water going. And then I'd have like a couple bottles of distilled water to finish it off, just to like get the benzene.
No, that's not how that works, Ted. It's already into your skin. No, first of all, okay.
Listen to Manila, not to me. Manila's right.
There's a whole fucking Pacific Ocean there. All of you can fit, I promise. If you need to go take a saltwater dip,
you're forgetting.
You got some stank.
You're forgetting your own show, Manila. What is an ocean full of what? Orcas.
Well,
dangerous talking.
I don't think they're going to be right on the coast. They're not coming up.
And they can hunt on land now.
Yeah, but they're not coming right up to the sand. So you can go splash. If you got some stank pits and some stank parts, do not do what Ted says. Please do not. Like, the water is toxic.
I think
Don't do it.
Manila's in with big orca. That's what's going on here.
They're pretty. Their babies are pretty cute, and they can say Amy. I'm working on them saying Manila, but but look, but Ted, I've told this story on air before about why I quit learning to surf in my teenage years. Have you ever heard it?
Orcas.
Well, besides orcas and sharks, but yeah, you're a teenager. You're willing to risk that. It doesn't matter.
I did have a friend who was attacked by a shark at Muir Beach in Northern California. Great story. We could tell it anytime. But go ahead with yours.
So as I was like paddling, like you lay chest down, right? And you kind of paddle, you're paddling out, right? Mm-hmm. To try to catch, I'm trying to catch baby waves because I'm learning to surf. I don't know how to surf yet. But as I'm just kind of laying there and paddled out, and I must have been like 16 or 17 years old because I drove myself out there ditching class. And
how very Californian.
I know. And I'm just kind of laying there, just kind of like, oh, this is nice. Like, I'm a Californian, man. This is cool. And
were
I
you
thought,
like,
oh
were
shit.
you constantly listening to the Ventures, like on your Walkman, like
Walkman. Right? No, back then it was like Sublime. It was, like the mid 90s, so it was like Sublime and like No Doubt and stuff. That's what I was listening to. But we didn't have that kind of technology back then to carry it out with me into the ocean. So I'm just sitting there in that moment, or laying there in that moment, and I'm thinking, "Oh shit, that's a jellyfish."
Oh God.
It was not a jellyfish, Ted. You know what it was?
It wasn't a rock. It was a rock lobster.
Yes, it was a grouping of poopy diapers that floated right by my face.
Oh my God. What? Oh.
Poopy diapers floated right by my face, and I immediately jumped up.
It's a reason like that I don't swim in Coney Island.
And so that's
Coney
ever
Island
since
has shit
then.
like that.
Ever since then, and this would have been like 1997 probably, and ever since then I was like, nope, not swimming in here anymore. Nope.
Change of soundtrack.
What is this?
Gotta get away, get away.
What is this? The fucking Ganges? No.
It's true.
Nope. Paddle back, and that was the end of it.
Maybe you would have been like you would have been totally fortified against E. coli. All right, we've got it. We're running slow here. Our guest is going to end up. All right, here we go. Mayor Eric Adams of New York City, his re-election chances in doubt. Are you kidding me? Like, Clovis is ahead of him in the polls, and he's not even running. Eric Adams polled at 6% in the most recent poll for mayor of New York City. I mean, that's below like, plague, cable companies, attorneys.
You'd rather have E. coli?
Yeah, rather have E. coli. Dirty, pooey diapers at 8%. 32% for, as I had said and predicted wisely, former Governor Cuomo is going to be the next mayor of New York City. Anyway,
what?
Adams flew off to Florida yesterday to meet with Trump at Mar-a-Lago. He made his trip with no advance announcement. His aides only said that the two dudes would discuss New Yorkers' priorities when they meet today. The mayor asked for the meeting. The city, however, is funding the trip. Well, because, it's Mayor Adams. He doesn't pay for anything. Because it supposedly has a city purpose. No other city officials, however, are going along aside from his security detail. But no, I'm going to give you exactly 1.0 guesses what this meeting is really about. And I'm going to say, I'll give you a hint. It's not a city purpose. It's a personal purpose.
Really? You think he's going to ask for like a pardon for his upcoming but like I don't even know what the charges really against Mayor Adams, apart from like being arrested by the fashion police with his his awful studded outfits.
He's under indictment for running a corruption ring.
I didn't really look into it.
He makes honestly, we all owe Boss Tweed a fucking apology. I mean, Adams makes him look like a piker.
I haven't really been following closely. I mean, obviously, like, my home state has enough problems, and my home mayor has enough problems for me to follow. I can't keep up. Other than the image of Mayor Adams that sticks in my mind is when he first got elected, he went to go cut a rug at some nightclub, and he had this horrible like velour suit jacket with like bedazzling on the back.
Yeah, no, I
call the fashion police, please.
Well, hopefully it's not a pedazzle that he also has.
It was terrible.
So but no, but anyway, he's corrupt as shit. He's definitely going. He's asking for a pardon, no question about it. I mean, he knows Trump's giving him out, and that's what's going on there.
Well, dude, he said this is like priorities for New Yorkers, and the priority for that New Yorker is a pardon.
Right, it's a New York issue in a way. I mean,
totally, it is.
Yeah, he's such a scoundrel. I mean, I couldn't believe when he was when he was perp walking, shadow perp walking Luigi Mangione, and I'm like, dude, you're the one who's supposed to be being perp walked. Okay, you're not supposed to be doing the perp walking. You're the perp walkie.
It's a photo op.
Okay,
fine. Everybody wants a photo op.
David Lynch, a painter turned avant-garde filmmaker whose fame, influence, and distinctively skewed worldview extended far beyond the movie screen to encompass TV, records, books, nightclubs, a line of organic coffee, and his foundation for consciousness-based education and world peace has died at the age of 78. His family announced the death on social media on Thursday, but provided no details. In 2024, however, he announced that he had developed emphysema after many years of smoking, and that as a result, any subsequent films he made would have to be redirected remotely. I don't even know how that works. Mr. Lynch was a visionary, and that is absolutely true. His florid style and unnerving perspective emerged full-blown in his first feature, the cult film Eraserhead, released at midnight in 1977. His approach remained consistent through the failed blockbuster Dune in 1984, which it's the only movie I've ever witnessed in a New York City movie theater that sparked a riot. People tore the seats that were bolted down in the theater and threw them through the screen. They were so angry at how bad the film was.
Dune was pretty bad.
It's awful. It's really bad. His small-town erotic thriller Blue Velvet, 1986, which is absolutely essential and everyone should see, and its spiritual spin-off, the network TV show Twin Peaks, broadcast in 1990 and 1991. Also I think that's really important to see. His widely acknowledged masterpiece, Mulholland Drive, that is his best film. 2001, A Poisonous Valentine to Hollywood. Love that description. And his enigmatic last feature, Inland Empire, which he shot himself on video, which is also great. Like Frank Capra and Franz Kafka, two widely disparate 20th century artists whose work he admired and might be said to have synthesized, his name became an adjective. The Lynchian is at once easy to recognize and hard to define, Dennis Lim wrote in his monograph, David Lynch, The Man from Another Place. Made by a man with a long-time devotion to the technique of transcendental meditation, Lynch's films were characterized by their dreamlike imagery and punctilious sound design, as well as by Manichaean narratives that pit an exaggerated, even saccharine innocence against depraved evil. There are many other things that he's done that are well worth watching, and I would say Wild at Heart would be an example of that, of a great David Lynch film. There's a lot of crap, so you do have to be careful, because he was so wildly experimental, and that it was a real serious high wire act, and I would say he was a consummate. I mean, you're not admitted to Generation X unless you've watched and liked David Lynch films.
And yes, and for sure, like for us, well, no, you didn't major in the same thing as me. You majored in something nerdy.
What did you major in?
Comms, journalism, man. But where I went to school, part of the journalism department or the comms department, they make you take like these other quasi electives, like script writing, like creative script writing.
That's good.
And films and stuff. So I watched all these films like in college, including a whole bunch of David Lynch films and like random foreign films that I would probably never ever dream to watch. But David Lynch, that was like my real first exposure. I mean, I've watched other films, but really looking at it from an artistic viewpoint, having, a professor teach you about these films. Mm-hmm. And then you start to see how all of these more modern filmmakers like Tarantino, for example, how they drew from David Lynch because he was so experimental starting from the 70s. So like what a loss. And just
Lost Highway is also really worth watching.
Well, yes. But yeah, not a lot more to say other than I didn't know that he was ill from emphysema. That's a shame. And 78. So, what a awesome career and artistic avant-garde, as they said, right? Just he changed Hollywood. He changed films. That's all I can say.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that's true. I mean, because it's like there's not really anyone else like him, So it's like
Tarantino like tries to copy him, and I would say there are a lot of elements of, like, for example, I love Tim Burton. Tim Burton, I think, takes a lot from Lynch as far as like camera angles and stylistic purposes. So I think
I see the Tarantino connection for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, it's hard to like the cinematography is in many cases. It's not throughout, but you see it in bits and pieces. Yeah, like the scene in Pulp Fiction where Rosanna Arquette is high, and what's his name? Travolta is high, and he's like in that fever state while he's driving, and that could be right out of Lost Highway, right?
Totally. All right.
So,
let's do this last one. We'll jump to real quick. I get to read this one because it's Friday, which I do, but I'm going to call this one a Fry Yuck story. In case you guys haven't heard, Progresso has come up with a new way for soup lovers to consume chicken noodle soup in this cold and flu season. The soup company announced it's launching Soup Drops, a chicken noodle soup flavored hard candy drop that looks like a cough drop. Quote, these savory drops are arriving for a limited time this month during National Soup Month, right at the height of cold and flu season, the company said in a press release. The drops are being tabbed by Progresso as soup you can suck on. Tastes like broth, savory veggies, soft egg noodles, and a hint of parsley, according to the company.
Oof.
Customers can get the soup drops exclusively at progressosoupdrops.com starting as of last night or yesterday, January 16th. And additional quantities will be released every Thursday for the rest of the month while supplies last. They're already sold out. Apparently, I went and checked because who doesn't want to chew and suck on and crunch their soup, Ted? Yum. Oh, yeah, I can't wait.
Speaking of a do not boil kind of order, do not drink kind of order, this would be that.
Yeah.
I guess it's not really drinking, right? Chewing.
No, you're chomping on a hard candy. Who wants to chomp on a hard candy, like a soup hard candy? Gross.
Very gross.
Who I want to know who landed this job in their like marketing department. They're like, I got an idea.
I know. Well, it is. I mean, it's like astronaut food. Kind of.
This is too George Jetson-y for me. Not into it. Into it. All I'm going to say. All right. So our guest I see is waiting.
Okay.
And we're going to bring him on right after quite possibly the best part of our show, Ted.
Maybe we should just have an entire show as a treat one day where it's just the Jaws over and
over and
over.
Let's switch gears and on to our main topic.
Okay, then. And so let's introduce our topic today, which is a classic TMI, too much information topic. Calin Georgescu, he's a right-wing politician from the Right-Wing Alliance for the Union of Romanians Party, also known as AUR, won the first round of Romania's presidential election back in November. Shocked by the results, pro-NATO and pro-EU officials in Romania then claimed that Georgescu had been boosted by TikTok inexplicably, and Russia also inexplicably, both of whom said, we don't know what you're talking about. Romania's highest court annulled the results and ordered the government to rerun the election completely from the start. Georgescu, not surprisingly, denounced the vote cancellation as a formalized coup d'etat. Now they've set the first round of the replacement election for May 4th. And to join us to talk about this is George Szamuely. He's a writer and senior fellow at the Global Policy Institute in London and the author of Bombs for Peace, NATO's Humanitarian War on Yugoslavia. And he does a daily podcast with Peter Lavelle called The Gaggle. You can go over to locals.com and find that. George, thanks for joining us here on the TMI
Well, good to be with you, Manila and Ted.
Hi, George. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
I'll be happy to send you some soup drops if you would like, because I'm sure you can't get these in Europe.
Yeah, I think I'll pass, to be honest.
That would be wise.
Yeah.
You can get. I'm sure there's some European way to get cancer that you know.
Yeah. I'm sure.
So, George, can I ask you? I think I hear our show in the background. Can you turn the volume down just a hair, please?
The volume. I think it's a little difficult. Yeah, I don't think you can do it here. The turning down the volume
on the computer. I hear a little bit of feedback.
All right, let me see. Okay, let's see. Is this any better?
I think so. I think the volume was slightly too high and it was picking back up on the microphone.
On the other hand, I'm having difficulty hearing you, so maybe all right. Let's.
Oh
no. Okay, but I mean, I can hear you. It's you sound very distant.
Oh no. Okay, but now we're not getting feedback. I'll ask the audience actually if they can tell us if they can hear any feedback from George. If not, I'll tell George to crank the volume back up. So please keep us abreast, audience.
Yeah, he does have to be able to hear us.
You have to be able to hear us. So George, first up, isn't this par for the course for the Biden era view of democracy around the world? Is that you must kill democracy in order to save it, and in this case, overturn election results. Isn't this democracy in the 21st century?
Well, it is, and of course, it it has antecedents even towards the end of the 20th century, whereby the EU used to organize referendums, and then when the referendum predictably went the wrong way, the policy was, okay, well, we're going to run it again. In Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, for instance, had 2 referendums, and it was on the Lisbon Treaty, and it was the Nice Treaty. Each time, the Irish voted the wrong way, so they had to say, okay, well, we got to do it again, and until you get it right. Same thing happened in France. When there was a referendum on the EU constitution, the French voted the wrong way, so you have to rerun it. And so there is a tradition of this within the EU. But what's happened more recently, which is a new twist, which is that when the referendums or elections go the wrong way, you simply announce with no evidence whatsoever that somehow Russia interfered. The election wasn't fair because Russia was doing all sorts of things, and so therefore we don't really have to accept the results, even though the only people who are really interfering in these elections is, of course, the Americans and the EU. So, what you got, for instance, in Moldova. Now, in Moldova, they actually managed to get over the line in this on changing the constitution in Moldova to make EU membership now as part of the Moldovan constitution. But clearly, this was a stolen vote because they basically didn't provide enough polling places to accommodate the Moldovan diaspora. Most of the Moldovan diaspora lives in Russia. And so therefore they had to basically minimize the ability of the Moldovans living in Russia to vote. And so it was a very, very narrow win for the EU and Maia Sandu, the Moldovan president. But the only way they could do it, they could finish, get across the line, was to prevent the Moldovans living in Russia from voting. So they basically, there were only 2 voting places in Moscow where they could vote, and then they only provided 5,000 ballot papers for them to vote. Well, of course, since there are several 100,000 Moldovans living in Russia, that means almost all of them were disenfranchised. And then, of course, typically the EU hailed this as a free and fair election. We won, we won. Russia has been defeated. Russia has been thwarted. But it was obviously a theft in plain sight.
George, are they presenting anything that they claim is evidence of TikTok and or Russia having their thumbs on the scale in that previous election? Or is it just talk?
Well, I haven't seen any evidence of this, and no one else has. So they presented this as somehow there was something or other going on on TikTok. But all they can say is that, well, he has a large following on TikTok. Well, who's on TikTok? Well, mostly young people, and he appealed to young people, and so he acquired a large following. But even if you say there was something nefarious on TikTok, then okay, but what has that got to do with Georgescu winning the first round? And what has that got to do with the second round, but he was obviously scheduled to win and win very comfortably? What has anything that went on in TikTok got to do with the fact that people went and voted for him? So they had no explanation at all. How do you get from this to the fact that people voted for him? Now, some media say that, oh, well, he's this person. Nobody knew who he was. He just came from obscurity to win an election. That was something nefarious. He wasn't, an unknown figure. He was actually a very well-known figure in Romania. He's been around for many years. He's had positions at the United Nations. He's a university professor. He's been talked in the past about a potential prime minister. That was he had up for a prime minister position years ago. So he was a very well-known person, and so but the media have to present it. Oh, he came from nowhere. Well, he didn't come from nowhere. And again, clearly he was scheduled to win the second round, and that had nothing to do with anything that had happened on TikTok.
Right. Yeah, it's not even possible that he came from nowhere, right? I mean, no one can come from nowhere and win a presidential election in a country. Right. That's
in any country.
Right.
Exactly.
In any country. I mean, you can get appointed president like what's his face Guaido in Venezuela. That can happen.
That's different. But winning
coming from nowhere.
You're right. Exactly. That's the point. I mean, that he was known and people went and voted for him. I mean, if you're going to say that there was something wrong with the vote, but they haven't said there was anything wrong with the vote, people went to vote for him. So there was obviously something about his candidacy that appealed to voters. And so that when they came along and just canceled the election, that is taking NATO land and EU democratic practices to a new limit. I mean, you're just simply canceling an election when the voting for the second round had already begun.
Dare I say that we're now living in the second 2.0 of the Trump effect around the world, that it seems that whenever Trump wins, that the rest of the world seems to follow in their elections as well, that countries' voters swing right. And there's this kind of, I don't know if it's a correction or an overcorrection, and I don't want to, frame it the wrong way, but Georgescu has been described as a very conservative, very nationalist, Orthodox Christian. And that this is sort of where the way that the voters, young and old, that this is how they feel. And he's a Eurosceptic. And that is very reflective of how the young voters feel. They're Eurosceptic, they're EU skeptic completely, they're NATO skeptic. And as well as the young voters, it's reflected here. It's the young, as they call them, the bros, right? The manosphere that got Donald Trump elected this last time. So do you see this as kind of a reflection over there as well, and the EU is going, hair on fire?
Yeah, I think so. I absolutely agree with you. I mean, you had this in Romania. You had something very similar in Georgia. And again, then NATO and EU poured a lot of resources in. They wanted absolutely to keep Georgia Dream from winning. And Georgia Dream's position is very similar to Georgescu's position, which is, we really don't want to get involved in this war in Ukraine. It's not doing us any good. It's not doing Ukraine any good. It's not doing Europe any good. And we're kind of, in the vicinity. We're not like other countries like the UK who are far, far away from the action. We're right there. And we just want to stay out. And I think you have that. And of course, you have that in Moldova. So say, there was a lot of resources poured into Moldova. They were desperate to make sure that Maia Sandu won that election, and he was obviously stolen. So yes, and now we have the next big election that's coming up, which is Germany, and already we had the threat that was coming from Thierry Breton, the former EU commissioner for whatever, but he's been
chief
replaced.
censor.
That's right, the chief censor. As I said, I can't remember what exactly was what his full title was, but he was replaced by Macron. And of course, yes, his main focus has been censorship and to get everybody with the program, and then to threaten them that if you don't do what we tell you to do, we're going to hit you and hit you so hard that we're just going to bankrupt you. So he said in an interview recently, well, what we did in Romania, we can do in Germany. If the Germans, vote the wrong way, and we decide that there's something untoward in that election, we're just going to cancel it. We're just going to, do what we like. And of course, typically, he said, well, I didn't really say that. That I've been misinterpreted, fake news. But that's exactly what he said. You can just, see the interview for yourself. So he was clearly likening what happened in Romania and applying that model to Germany should the AfD do well in February.
Can you describe what this guy's politics actually are? Like
Georgescu?
Uh-huh.
I think he's a I think Manila described it well. I think he's a nationalist. I think he's kind of conservative, and I think he doesn't want to. He's not pro-Russian. I mean, it's always they say he's pro-Russian. He doesn't want to get into a war with Russia. But there's the other problem in the case of Romania. I mean, the Americans have been building their biggest military base in Europe in Romania. This has been going on for some time. Previously, the American biggest base in Europe was Ramstein in Germany. But now they're going to do it in Romania, and of course, that's a vital strategic location because, of course, it's on the Black Sea. And if your plan is to keep the war bubbling in Ukraine, then obviously this is a vital logistics point. Romania, that's an easy one. You transfer all of your armaments from Romania through Moldova and into Ukraine. So he's not very happy about that, and he's talked in the past about doing something about it. Saying, I don't think he can. At least he has threatened to restrict the use of this base and so on. This obviously brought him into conflict with NATO. I mean, NATO's invested a great deal into building this base, and they can't have a Romanian president who's going to in any way jeopardize the use of this base. So he is, I think, a kind of Romania first sort of a political figure, which means he doesn't care about Russia. He's not particularly fond of Russia. Just doesn't want to get involved in a war with Russia. Right. So it's very similar to Viktor Orban's politics. Again, Orban doesn't care about Russia. He doesn't particularly like Russia, but he doesn't want to get into a war with Russia. Same like with the new Georgian leadership. Again, they don't particularly like Russia. They just don't want to get into a war with Russia.
Right. Well, one of his platforms I saw when he was campaigning was he specifically said, I don't want my country involved in the Ukraine war. Plain and simple. We're not going to get involved in the Ukraine war.
Romania borders Ukraine for people who are not that good at geography. But it does.
Right. So he made it real simple and said, under my leadership, we're not adding to the Ukraine war. But then when you consider the things that you just said with the new MK base that has direct access to the Black Sea, that poses a direct threat to Russia, which is exactly what NATO wants. He has actually said, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but he basically is saying to NATO, I don't want my country to get Ukrained. Which is, I'm sorry to use it as a verb, but he doesn't want his country to get used by NATO as a proxy state to fight against Russia and be destroyed, because he's not a fool. He knows that unless unless NATO actually goes to war with Russia, you're going to leave Romania holding the bag by opening this doorway to provocation. So, I mean, he's not wrong. And I think the young people know this, then they want a future. I feel like if especially because he's, been backed very much so by the TikTok generation, George. These kids don't want to go to war. They don't want to get drafted, is my opinion.
Yeah. No, I think it's absolutely right, because that's clearly where the Americans see, the action, where they think the future conflicts are going to be. They're going to be in the Black Sea. It's part of what NATO has been up to for decades. The whole policy of surrounding Russia with hostile militarized states, which means spreading from Ukraine, Moldova, and then into the Caucasus. That's the NATO ambition. And of course, when you do that, you are likely to get into a very serious confrontation with Russia. Obviously, we have this in Ukraine. The outcome, whether that's going to be settled or whether it's going to escalate into something much worse, we don't know at this stage. But if you're in Romania and then you see this massive military base that's being built by the Americans, and you think, well, this war in Ukraine, that could still escalate. I mean, there's a lot of dangerous things that are being done in Ukraine. That could escalate, and that means we will be a target. Once the Russians decide to target strategic locations outside of Ukraine, they're going to start thinking, well, we have to hit NATO targets. And of course, what's going to be the most logical, most likely target in NATO land that Russians would hit? Well, they're going to hit this the base in Romania, and that I think is why they think, hey, this escalates, we're in the front line, and so that I think that's why this young Romanians think, well, we need to stay out of this. We need to bring this war to a swift conclusion. And I think that's also the view of Hungarians who support Viktor Orban. I mean, they may not like Viktor Orban particularly, but they like his foreign policy, because he's saying that, hey, we want to stay out of it. We don't want to get clobbered, because that's what happens when there's a war between the great powers. We get clobbered. I mean, and Orban has said this explicitly again and again. It's always happened. It happened in 2 world wars, which is we get absolutely clobbered because we're right in the middle between the West and the East, and therefore, we're the juiciest target. And Romania, similar situation. They get clobbered in a war, so they want to say, just let's stay out of it, and let's bring this war to as swift a conclusion as possible. I think that's why the message is resonating, and that's why essentially they canceled that election. They knew he was going to win. I mean, you don't cancel an election unless you think it's definitely going to go the wrong way. So they canceled it. Immediately announced to Brussels, hey, we're a reliable partner. Look, we're reliable. We're with you.
2 questions, George. Is he going to win in the do-over, or will they let him win? I guess is the big question. And then the other question is, how much sort of post-Eastern Bloc Soviet nostalgia is there in Romania? I mean, Romania was a member of the Warsaw Pact, if my memory serves. So, I mean, what's that memory like? I know there's some nostalgia in many parts of the former Soviet bloc for that period, which a lot of older people remember quite fondly, and so on. So, there they are. There's my questions.
Right. So the first question, I don't know whether they're going to allow him to run. They've scheduled this election for May the 4th, so that's still 2.5 months away. But I have my doubts. I mean, he's so far ahead in the polls that they're going to have to think, if we have this election in May, he will win. He will be the president. So I tend to think they're going to find some means of keeping him off the ballot, and they probably will do it by bringing some kind of criminal charges against him, money laundering or some corruption or whatever, and they say, you're not eligible to run. I think that's what they'll do. Now, this will obviously have a very negative effect. What probably disturbances or whatever will happen as a result. I mean, that's a serious step to keep him off the ballot. But I tend to think that they're not going to allow him to run because
is he clean, or is there dirt to be found?
It's very hard to say because they obviously detest him. But again, we've never heard any of this in the past. He was a university professor. He worked at the United Nations. And his field of expertise was sustainability. So all very, very politically correct and appropriate stuff. It's kind of United Nations preoccupies itself with sustainable agriculture and so on. So
like the Davos crowd right now that's going on right now. They're sustainability and
exactly. Yeah. So I've never heard of any dirt in the past. So that suddenly they come up with the stuff about money laundering. And again, they don't actually have to prove any of this. All they have to do is to bring these charges and then keep him off the ballot.
I agree. I agree. And it's a matter of how you market the alleged dirt. As long as you say it 1,000,001 times, it must be true. George, there's a viewer question for you from Adrian. Adrian says, if Russia makes a move to Odessa, do you think NATO from their Romanian base would send in troops of their own?
That's a very good question. It's hard to say. It's a possibility. I mean, you'd have to say, if Russia were to go now beyond the territory it's now operating in, is obviously the Donbass, Donetsk, and Lugansk, Kherson and Zaporozhye. If it were to go beyond that and go for Odessa or anywhere really west of the Dnieper, there is a real possibility NATO could intervene. It's certainly something Russians would be quite concerned about. I mean, I think that Putin is a very cautious person. I don't think he would want to do anything that could provoke a NATO intervention. Again, it's not a certainty, but nonetheless, there is a real risk that if Russia does move beyond the Dnieper, that NATO could directly intervene. So I think if there was a move for Odessa, I think it's a distinct possibility, and that's why I don't think Russia will do it. I don't think Russia will take that risk.
Thank you for that, George. Yeah, the viewers like asking questions. Yeah, good question.
Yeah, it is a very good question. But what Ted said, there is a nostalgia for some of the pre-1989 country. I mean, because remember Ceausescu, I mean, Romania was in the Warsaw Pact, but Romania really didn't take part in any Warsaw Pact activities. So Romania didn't take part in the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia in 1968. In fact, Romania condemned it, but it remained within the Warsaw Pact. But Ceausescu did maintain a certain independence. I mean, he did pursue an independent policy, and he made sure not to become a kind of vulnerable dependency of the West in the way that Poland became, because Poland started borrowing and borrowing and borrowing to fuel its sort of artificial economic growth in the 1970s. And of course, at some point, the bills came due, and then Poland really was unable to do anything better. And then that was kind of the beginning of the end for communism in Eastern Europe. But Ceausescu was very smart. He paid off all his debts precisely in order he didn't want to make Romania a dependency of the West. I think, in retrospect, I think, Ceausescu enjoys a certain measure of respect that, he kind of maintained his independence. He made sure that Romania could not be blackmailed by anyone. So it couldn't be blackmailed by the Western powers, and he kept his distance from the Soviet Union. So I think if there is a kind of nostalgia for that era, but it is now a long time ago, and then increasingly there aren't that many people around who still have a kind of a living memory of what it's like to exist in the communist world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to live through those days. Yeah, and what we're looking at on the screen, by the way, is a pro Georgescu demonstration on the streets of Bucharest last week, and there were many estimates saying that this was about 100,000 people, but the officials keep telling the press that it's merely 10,000 or so. That looks like a lot more than 10,000 people to me.
Right.
And this is just one video, and I've seen many where it's a sea of people that are saying we want our democracy back, or that now this is becoming a broader issue, especially because Georgescu is telling the voters that your vote doesn't count, right? He's kind of alluded to Donald Trump, not because I don't think because he likes Donald Trump in particular, but alluded to like J6 kind of. He's kind of made that he's kind of alluded to that, saying, there's sort of a comparison here, and now this is going to their Supreme Court, and that it's up to these 9 people who will decide for 19 million. So do you foresee, if this anger continues to rise, do you foresee any chance that they will have their own January 6th there?
Well, it's quite possible, because as I said, as things stand, there will be an election on May the 4th. So then they're up against the situation. We have an election. Georgescu is going to win overwhelmingly. I mean, the polls suggest that he's way ahead of everyone else. So either they accept it, in which case this is a huge blow to the political elite in Romania, a huge blow to NATO, or they find some means of keeping him off the ballot. That, I think, will lead to quite serious riots and and violence. And who knows what happens when that if there's violence, whether you go then martial law, and so on. So yeah, this could end very badly if they follow through. As at the moment, I would think they will follow through and keep him off the ballot, because otherwise this is a total humiliation for Brussels.
Yeah, it's
again, the Americans
thoroughly
endorsed what Romania did. They said, yeah, this is exactly the right thing. This is clearly Russian interference. Russia trying to rig this vote.
And TikTok.
Yeah, that's it. So the Americans
TikTok is behind everything.
That means it's the Chinese too, right?
TikTok.
It's TikTok and Russia behind everything. So, by saying TikTok, they're implying the Chinese government, because as happening here in the States, George, TikTok is about to get canceled on Sunday. The Supreme Court has just signaled that they're going to allow this to continue. So, because the U.S. is alluding to TikTok being wholly controlled by the Chinese, the CCP. So, that's what basically they're saying in Romania, is the CCP and the Russians are puppet masters of the world, if it were.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's the it's the go-to explanation. Imagine just simply say, well, anything at all that we don't like, we say, oh, it was the Russians who did it. So now, I mean, this whole thing about these undersea cables, this is a new one that NATO has invented.
Shadow fleet.
A shadow fleet. So every time there's some undersea cable is damaged, which you would expect in a very heavy, where there's a lot of shipping as there is in the Baltic Sea, that undersea cables are going to be damaged. Now, every time an undersea cable is damaged, it was Russia. Do you have any evidence? No.
Or it could be TikTok. TikTok could somehow be involved with their own.
It could be.
Yes.
There was a how-to video on TikTok on how to destroy underwater cables. So, no, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But that's my whole point. And also, I heard there's a flood of pink salmon in Norway or Finland or something right now, and that somehow I saw Russia's name in there, and that whoever it is, I don't know if it's Norway, I can't remember, but they're blaming somehow that the Russians are going to overfish or it's just this is what said. I said, okay, I've had enough. You can't blame the Russians for too much pink salmon. You can't.
They're going to blame the Russians for the orca attacks next.
This is too much.
Russia's behind everything.
I can't take any more of this.
By the way, if the Russians are that smart and good at everything, I kind of want to move to Russia. I mean, they seem to have, they're so smart. They're obviously doing a great job. They're running the entire world.
Yes. I just
that's the problem with when you give them these superpowers, then you say, well, if they're that good, it's probably not a great idea to get yourself into confrontation with them because
exactly.
They're going to give us a good whooping.
This is a different meaning of superpower. It's like Superman, superpowers.
Yeah. Not to mention, it's like you got to be thinking well, wait a minute. If they're so good, how come our government isn't as canny?
Why aren't we that good?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Why can't we be?
Why are we paying 54% of our tax dollars for defense? What's going on? Where's that money going? Where's our orca army?
No, it's a dolphin army. The Russians allegedly have militarized dolphins.
They had a beluga whale. Remember, they had a
beluga whale, dolphins. Whale. Next, it'll be the orcas, and apparently right now it's the pink salmon.
Yep.
Pink salmon,
spy salmon.
Look it up. This is in the news today. Look it up. I thought about putting it in our headlines, but I thought this is too crazy. I just can't. So I chose the soup.
What's the thing? Are they overfishing the pink salmon? They're taking too many. That's.
I couldn't remember. I rolled my eyes so hard that I thought I'd give myself a seizure, so I stopped reading it. But Ted's probably looking it up right now. Pink salmon.
I am.
What does it say, Ted?
All right. So this is in Norway or something?
It is Norway. Yeah.
I'm not finding it right away.
Norway or Finland, or maybe it was Sweden. I felt like it was one of the newest NATO allies.
Mm-hmm.
One of the newest members to NATO would be either Sweden or Finland. But I thought maybe it could have been Norway. All those, I'm sorry, but those Scandinavian countries, I get them all confused.
Me too. Yeah. I know they're not the same, but are they? Are they not really? It's not coming up. I don't know.
Let's see.
I'll find it.
Let's see. I mean, pink.
Now we all want to know. Okay.
I would know. Let's say pink salmon.
It was specific to pink salmon, and I definitely read it, and I rolled my eyes, and I said, I cannot put this in today's headlines because it's too ridiculous. This is just I couldn't take anymore.
Really?
Okay,
I'm not getting it at all.
Well, let's see.
I'm sure I didn't imagine it. I'm sure now everyone's looking.
I think you saw this on a. This is a Russian bot on TikTok that implanted itself into your brain.
No, I'm positive.
Do you suddenly have an urge to vote on the far right in a European election?
I'm gonna go infiltrate the European elections all over the place and vote far right. I'm gonna go to Germany and somehow vote. Here it is. An invasion of pink salmon. Here, hold on. The Norwegians. So that's Norway.
Okay. Yes, it is.
Okay, it's loading.
Well, this is kind of. Oh, I see. All right. Yeah, I get it. It's
Norway.
From Oxford Academic. I got it.
Non-native pink salmon have swarmed Norway's rivers, prompting a relentless and potentially fruitless fight to beat back the invaders. And I kind of skimmed through it, and it says, okay, here. An angler who steps into Russia is likely to be caught on security. What?
Oh, there is a Russian angle. The Soviet Union introduced pink salmon to the White Sea and Kola Peninsula in the 60s and 90s.
And so now this is the invasive species.
And is that a bad thing, pink salmon?
I thought salmon was good.
Well, they're an invasive species. So there's different varieties, right? So wild, blah, 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 blah. Okay,
I'm going to post this in the private chat and the public chat.
They are not. They're competing aggressively against wild salmon. So basically, they're kind of like wow, apparently it's pretty crazy. There's no protection from the fish waste, food, and any antibiotics which flow through the open nets to the seafloor, which create ocean dead zones. So I guess there's just too many of them. They're invasive, and they're over competing against other indigenous species.
Against the indigenous fish. So basically, if the Russians introduced this during the Soviet era, they're basically blaming the Russians now for saying,
part of their plan.
Now your fish are invading our
From 80 years ago, they had this all planned out.
So this complaint, this goes back
to have invasive species that we introduce ever.
Okay, well that's great. So they're complaining about what something was done about in the 1970s. You know that it's not something that's recent. This is about something that was done in the 1970s.
It's a Soviet thing. I mean, it was done by a country that does not even exist anymore. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So they're basically saying now that the Russians are responsible for the invasive species in their rivers. Well, that's basically what the article says.
That's sort of true, but it's been a long time.
Right.
It's a long time.
Why are you waiting?
Yeah.
To complain. I told you guys I'm not crazy, and I woke up, I wake up early. I got a kid to get out to school, and I'm reading these articles, for us to talk about on the program. And I read this and I thought, this is insane. This is insane. We cannot keep blaming the Russians for literally everything that we disagree with.
Oh, we can.
Or are unhappy with.
We can, Manila. But we can.
Of course we can, because how else do we explain when anything goes wrong? Anytime things go the wrong way. Well, obviously it was Putin. I mean, that's it. So like these days, when they have these explosions taking place in warehouses, not because people are storing all kinds of dangerous material in warehouses. Oh, it was obviously Russians who were doing it. Russians are setting off bombs in warehouses or setting fires in warehouses.
Oh my God!
So there's probably people storing dangerous stuff. Then there's a lot of the black market, weapons,
combustible materials.
Yeah, you're mailing stuff from Ukraine to Europe, or mailing stuff to Ukraine, because they're lying in warehouses, and if you don't store them properly, there will be explosions.
Russia's obviously behind the fires in Los Angeles.
Oh, that's true. I forgot to blame them for that too. And now the PFAS chemicals that are in the waters from the fire, but maybe we'll blame them 20 years, 30 years later after the fact, like this pink salmon. I thought pink salmon was good. We'd be happy. All right, George.
I like the way you're bringing up from the 1970s. So this is great. Nostalgia time. Right?
Oh yeah.
About Brezhnev and
when I grew up, I was a little kid.
Yeah.
All good
great
stuff.
Yes.
George Szamuely, I'm going to put your book back up here on the screen as well. Are you working on any new ones?
I'm doing a follow-up about all these International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia and all the lies, distortions that have emanated from there. So that's the follow-up.
Excellent.
Okay.
So George Szamuely, of course, is a writer and senior fellow at the Global Policy Institute in London. He's the author of that book you see on screen right there, Bombs for Peace, NATO's Humanitarian War on Yugoslavia. Just like you got to destroy democracy to save democracy, George. Same thing.
Exactly.
And are you still doing your podcast with Peter?
Exactly. And the gaggle.locals.com. We also are on YouTube, but best if people join us in our locals community. thegaggle.locals.com.
Excellent. It's always a good time and a pleasure to have you, George. Like I said, you are among my top 2 favorite Georges in the world.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. Look forward to
so
George.
much, George.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye, Ted. Bye, Manila.
Bye-bye. Yeah, he's always a riot. Love George Szamuely. All right, so that's going to do it for us. And I told you, Ted, I'm not nuts. Told you.
No, you
where the pink salmon.
You might be. This does not disprove your nuttiness.
That's true.
But you were right.
True.
You were right.
But I did not imagine a story about pink salmon in Norway.
No, you didn't. Thank God for that. The Russian bot has not taken you over completely.
There you go. See, it's where the pink salmon flow. And it's Friday. I'm going to go suck on a soup candy. I'm just kidding. Gross. No.
Yummy.
Hard
and
soup.
we're here Monday, which is a little bit racially problematic because, it's MLK Day.
But it's Inauguration Day.
But it's also Inauguration Day. So
it's Inauguration Day.
I guess that trumps
literally
MLK Day. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Literally trumps MLK Day.
But
the MLK march is on
I always feel uncomfortable
Sunday,
because how like racist states like Arizona didn't want to acknowledge MLK Day. They were like the last ones. And
really?
They were like, we're not doing it. That's why I'm always like, whenever I work for a company where they're like, oh, we don't do MLK Day. I'm like,
yeah, I don't think most companies do.
It's a federal holiday. I mean, of course, there's federal holidays, and then there's like ones that nobody cares about, like Columbus Day is a federal holiday, and like all the offices are closed, the mail's closed, but you still have to go to work.
Yeah, I think my kid is still going to school, so I think I don't.
So is this a Klan school or
I don't know. I don't have it marked in my calendar as him being off that day.
He might be off.
I'm going to double check. But anyway, it's Inauguration Day for us because you guys are all
tavern and find out.
Political junkies. We're ushering in a new era. Speaking of Klansmen, so I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
By the way, did you know that I found this out. Klansmen had a conversation, and they had all the words that they could start with K.
It was all alliteration of K.
Yeah. They had like a whole vernacular.
So funny story. I know a guy whose grandfather who's disavowed the Klan. But
that's good.
Back in his younger days, I think he got up to like Grand Wizard or something. So
is there like an associate Grand Wizard, or
I don't know,
not
like
so
he
grand,
was,
like a drab
he was
wizard?
Up there.
Is there like a drab or like a bland wizard or like a
grand so wizard?
Yeah, like a meh wizard.
You're not grand yet, but that like he's disavowed that stuff.
Or just a wizard, and like a random wizard,
right? Wizard Junior. So I jokingly call I don't know this old man who's well into his 80s. I don't know him, but I jokingly tell my friend when I refer to his grandfather, I call him Clanpa.
and does he have? Are there holes in his bed sheets or?
I don't like
eye holes.
Did they buy new sheets? Have they bought new sheets since
the
70s?
In the Klan, was there like sort of was it considered gauche to have like grass stained like dirty sheets?
Ooh,
or like like mysterious yellow stains? Like I took them off. I was dribbling last night. Sorry, I didn't have time to do my laundry.
Fresh, crisp, pressed, bright white sheets.
400 thread count Italian sheets.
Minimum, Ted. Come on. You got to have some class if you're going to, do your racial cleansing all over the place.
Right.
Got to be clean. All right, guys. Happy Friday.
Klan was really from Indiana. I just want to say. All right.
Really? I never knew that. Yeah. See, all the stuff you didn't know you needed to know on this show. All right, guys, have a wonderful weekend. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button to help Ted and I grow this little channel. And hopefully we can keep doing this as a real job, not a volunteer job like we're doing right now. So help us out. Those
Working
who already do.
Kind of sucks, yeah.
Those who already do, because we have to acknowledge the ones who already do, Ted. We greatly appreciate it. Every little bit counts.
True.
As we try to continue to grow our little baby channel. We're still in our 90-day trial period. So we hope you'll keep us.
Yes, we do.
Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Next, we're back. It'll be the era of Trump.
Indeed.
Have a great weekend. Adios,
Bye,
amigos.
everyone.
Bye.
Au revoir.